So I see that, oh, hi, Mercedes, there in Miami. Thank you so much for joining us. That's incredible. Oh, and Akila Rogers, one of our great candidates. It's wonderful to see you here, as well as Thane from the Black Corporate Board Readiness Program. That's fabulous. So one question that we're getting is, why are we starting with Black candidates? So John, maybe you'll take that one. That's
Sure. Well, I think, it's a multifaceted reason. The simple answer is, first, we know that diverse boards perform better. So we need to enrich diversity. Secondly, there's 13% of the US population is Black, and only 3% are represented on boards today. So there's a complete imbalance, right? So we've got a huge job to do to make a change there. And it's incredibly important for boards to reflect the organizations they serve as well. So we decided to start where we thought the need was greatest, and we are actively advancing that. And over time, we'll consider expanding kind of our focus. But great organizations start with focus, and we thought the need was greatest to address in the Black community.
Yes, I certainly agree. Another question we've gotten is, are we a nonprofit organization? And I'd like to say we are a social venture organization. We are for profit. We intend to incorporate as a public benefit corporation. And John, you have a bit more experience with public benefit corporations than I do. So if you could elaborate on what that means.
So Seventh Generation was a founding member of the B Corp movement. And we're really a big believer that you can do both well and good. And ultimately, what we want to do is create a sustainable business model at Take Your Seat, one that fuels our growth, our reach, and our mission. And we thought the best way to do that was to create a social venture and become a certified B Corp.
Fantastic. Oh, and I want to point out that Thane has just put in the chat that we can meet the inaugural class of Black Corporate Board Readiness participants on April 8th. So that is going to be the place to be. Please check out that link. He's got an incredible group of candidates, an amazing network.
Jerush, I see a question from Marlene on whether we charge a placement fee. And it's a great question. So far, what we've not charged any fees to our early partners. We're trying to build traction right now. And Jerush shared we've had a number of successful placements. We've got 9 open searches. We had a tremendous meeting this morning with Unilever to place a person with health or a medical background on one of their boards. So if that fits you, please let us know. In time, what we're looking for is corporate support. So we'd like to charge a corporate membership. And in that would include access to our pool as well as support on searches. So we're not looking to disrupt the search industry, the Spencer Stewarts or the Korn Ferries of the world. We're looking to complement them. And we will charge a corporate membership for the services we provide.
And of course, those services will also include access to our trainings, our risk assessment tools, the whole suite of resources to build a better board for the future. And I'd also like to point out, not only are we not competition with executive search firms, but we happen to work with them in many instances and help them increase their pool of candidates. Now, I see that there's a question here. It says, how are you moving beyond the traditional profile of a board to make room for potential directors who are not CEOs, CFOs, or line of business heads? Too often Black executives have had a different path. And they're so right, John. That is very true.
It is absolutely true. And we think that actually part of where we're focused at first is what we'd call kind of the mid-market or mid-market tier. We're working with B Corps, for example, often where you will not need to have been a CEO, for example, but perhaps you've taken an atraditional role. Maybe you've led a nonprofit, or maybe you're a CHRO or have a whole different background. I think that's part of the beauty of true diversity is the richness of experience. Another question asked too, kind of what are we looking for? Well, we're going to place people on both for-profit and non-for-profit with a myriad of backgrounds, finance, technology, consumer, healthcare, you name it. We're really creating a broad coalition. We want to change all the industry sectors.
And I will say that what's been interesting is the corporate boards that we've placed candidates on most recently have actually spoken to the idea that it is the diversity of our candidates' backgrounds, which they feel will create innovation within their boardroom in terms of advice to their CEOs and where their companies will go in the future. So I think it's an exciting time to be looking at board service because it's really, the aperture has really opened up. Now, another question that we've gotten in the past has had to do with what types of backgrounds are they looking for, like this question of the CEO, CFO. But I just want to add to that is we have had a lot of interest as well in financial services as a background and lawyers. So if that is one of your backgrounds as well, and please, when you go and create your profile on Take Your Seat, the most important thing is to fill it out completely. Because when the board leaders are searching, they need to find out who you are, what your skill sets are, what your value system is, so they have an idea of how you will fit within their corporate culture. Oh, so someone's asking about the size and stage of companies that are a best fit for working with Take Your Seat. And I'll just start out by saying that we are looking at mid-cap companies. Most of our companies are funded by private equity. The reason we started with B-Lab as our founding partner is because their companies have already built in an idea of support for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's like a soft landing, let's call it. We're not so focused on public companies, but we wouldn't turn them away. So if you are a public company that is looking to fill a board seat with a diverse candidate, yes, Take Your Seat is here for you as well. And as John mentioned earlier, we are assisting with a search for Unilever, which is pretty exciting. It was great speaking with them in terms of what they're looking for.
Yeah. Jerusha, one of the things we've talked about is this idea of what it means to be board ready.
Oh, yes.
Maybe you could talk a little bit to kind of how we're thinking about that. And also, if maybe you've not had the full experience, what are some of the resources that are available through Take Your Seat and our partners to get board ready?
And I think you're so right, John. That is such an important conversation. So many people are interested in board service, but haven't asked themselves the first question, why? What are your expectations as regarding board service? What kind of company would you like to serve? So to help you find the answers to those questions, we partnered with programs like the Black Corporate Board Readiness Program, like the University of North Carolina School of Law's Director Diversity Initiative. These programs provide an introduction to the idea of board service, what you can expect. And on the Take Your Seat platform, we actually host a very special event called Lunch with a Luminary, where you get to sit down in a private conversation, a small, intimate group of people, and have a conversation with a sitting director about the board service experience. So you can really get an inside view behind the door of what happens in that room and what you can expect.
Yeah, I think that's really an important piece of building relationships. So what we're hoping to do is create and foster deeper mentorship as well. People who are already serving on boards who want to mentor or sponsor other candidates. We're really looking to create forums and connections for that as well. And we'll be hosting, and we've hosted some dinners. We're going to continue to host dinners and luncheons and give everyone a chance to meet and connect with people and share your wisdom and your knowledge and pull people along, help people achieve that goal of serving on boards.
And you probably noticed that our events seem to have a theme around a table, around a meal around a table. And that's because we realized that when you're having lunch, dinner, it's often like being in the boardroom where you may be with people that you don't necessarily know. They may be different from you. So we felt that having these events, which kind of are a metaphor for the board table, gives you a chance to actually have that experience and play that role and get to know the board leaders.
Yeah. Jerusha, there's a great question that came in. It said, it's great that we're filling these seats and creating the opportunity, but moreover, what do we do to make sure that diversity comes to life in the boardroom and that voices are heard? And how does this become more than just tokenism where CEOs or boards check a box? So I think that's a really powerful question, and one, you know, we are vitally conscious of and aiming to address as well. Do you want to address some of that?
Well, I would say that we're definitely looking to address that. That is our second stage of what we're doing here at Take Your Seat. We're very focused on board culture, and we're very focused on something we call reciprocal mentorship. So we do provide assistance and help and mentor the candidates to get them board ready. But on the other side of that, we are actually also working to get the boards ready for the candidates. Yeah. So we're working with our partners to actually provide information and resources to help them onboard diverse candidates, and also so they can think about, you know, what changes might you make in your bylaws in terms of having diversity become an outcome, an actual sustainable outcome and practice of your company. How do your company's diversity, equity, and inclusion practices flow up into the boardroom? So, and how as a brand in a company do you show up in the boardroom as a diverse place? So we're not leaving this to the boards and saying, okay, you've got your person. No, we're going to be on this ride with you for a very long time. We've heard you. We've listened. We know that you're asking for assistance in this realm, and we plan to be there with our partners to provide the resources and training that you need.
And Jerusha, if I can just give a shout out to a group that's joining us today on this conference call. It's the diversity movement. And if you're currently on a board and thinking about how do I advance diversity and board readiness and inclusivity on my board, the diversity movement is doing just that. And we highly recommend them as a resource too.
And I just want to say to Leslie Breckbridge, who's in the chat from the Mutual Fund Directors Forum, yes, we would love to connect with you and work with you and share resources and information in this space. It looks like you're doing some incredible work that could be very valuable to both candidates and board leaders. So please put your contact information in the chat, send it to us, and we'll connect.
Yeah, and Sharoni Little asked, once we sign up on the website, will there be outreach to screen us for potential matches? And Sharoni, what Jerusha said, please complete your profile as completely as possible. And then look at our site. We have posted all of the board searches that we currently have. If you happen to be on the call and have a search that you'd like us to post, please send it our way. We'd love to then hear from you where you think the fit is best. If you'd like to raise your hand to be a candidate from one of the searches, we'd love to hear about that. We will then take that and we will assemble a list, a short list for our client companies to review, and we'll have a facilitated conversation with them to advance the process. So that's a little bit about the way it works for matching board candidates with board seats.
And I am a member of the community. So as John mentioned, when you go to that board search page and you see a search that you're interested in, just private message me of your interest and then we'll take it from there. Now I see, Ken Gilbert. So I want to say hello to Ken Gilbert. He's in the chat. He was a part of our inaugural The Dinner Table event. Ken is the Black board member, the only Black board member on Wendy's board. And he asked, can you imagine a case where the board is so white male, so old school and inbred that they may not be ready for a diverse member? Well, one can imagine almost anything, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay. And the hope is that that board, someone reaches out who's an advocate for board diversity that we work with and can help turn that board in a different direction. And I will admit, I think that's part of how this movement is growing and moving forward.
Ken, I also think those days are numbered, to be honest. And I'm not just an optimist. I really believe that when you see what's happening in the capital markets and the requirements that leading companies like BlackRock and Goldman are putting on their companies, what's happening in private equity with TPG and others, assessing and reviewing their profiles, what's happening with NASDAQ and its requirements, we're going to see a lot more pressure applied to the white bastion old school, and their days are numbered. So we're going to start with those who are ready. That's why we really wanted to focus on B Corps, and we're so happy with the B Lab partnership. But we're going to keep pressing those companies that are not ready, and ultimately we want to get them ready. So yes, they are out there. That is the reality. We've got to tear it down brick by brick, but we're making a start today.
Yes, we are. And we're making a start today because of people like you, Ken, seasoned board members who are joining Take Your Seat and helping us with our efforts. And, you're being there to educate and mentor the board directors who are coming behind you. So thank you so much for your work and for joining us today and speaking out, because you are definitely a voice in the boardroom. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. This has been a very lively and just incredibly fun conversation. We know that we have work to do. We know that this is a long road, and we are so happy to have all of you and our partners on this journey with us. So thank you so much. Thank you, John. It's been a fabulous journey so far. I look forward to doing more. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Greg. You are fabulously wonderful partners to have for support. And just to walk in your footsteps has been amazing thus far. So I really appreciate everyone being here today. I am grateful.
Thank you, Jerusha.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Congratulations.
Thank you.